章莹颖案庭审结束，陪审团迅速达成一致，裁定嫌犯克里斯滕森有罪。然而，在庭审过程中爆出的很多关于克里斯滕森的证据和细节非常引人注目。美国中文网采访了前 FBI 探员、畅销书《FBI 日记》的作者 Peter Kliesman， 为我们解读这其中透露出的信号。
Did Christensen, is he likely to have killed a total of 13 women? The answer in my mind is absolutely no. Well, just because he says he has done something, based on what I saw in the interview clip that I was sent, this guy is really nothing more than a pathological liar. Now, you asked me the question, do you think that it would indicate he has mental problems? Well, I mean, you could argue that. The test is insanity. In other words, does a person know the nature and consequences of the act that he's committing at the time he commits it? And with Christensen, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that he did. There is evidence that will show that has shown that. That's why he got convicted. And Christensen is not what you would call a mental case. He's not crazy. And the jury will find that to be true as they progress. The idea that somebody would go to a memorial service is not unusual. I mean, I would say it happens for a couple reasons. One would be that the killer is showing remorse for what he or she has done, but usually he, in killing someone, and so feels bad, goes to the memorial service. The other reason would be they go so they're seen by others there, and then that would mean that other people would think, well, they're not guilty, they couldn't have done this, because here they are, they're at the memorial service, and so that means they probably didn't do anything. So it's not unusual at all. There's probably a percentage of cases, but it's usually a more unsophisticated killer that would do this, and that's exactly what I believe Christensen is. It's not unusual to use those in any type of a case. There can be a recorder placed directly on a person's body, and oftentimes it's a miniaturized version as opposed to the type that was used when I originally went in the Bureau 40 years ago. But yeah, they do use recording devices in a variety of different cases. Some would be there to record directly person to person. Others may be there to transmit to a third location. So yes, it's not unusual at all. Christensen is a psychopath. He is a narcissistic personality, and that's very psychological. But oftentimes the narcissistic personality or the psychopath or both are also pathological liars. It's easier for them to lie than it is for them to tell the truth. Now, the interesting thing about interviewing, and this is something I've taught agents, I've taught officers for many years, is the most important part of interviewing somebody is not the questions you ask, is listening to the answers. And if so, the agents or officers are listening to that, they will see inconsistencies, which they did in that hour-long interview, and then would take those answers and, well, wait a minute, Brent, you said this 20 minutes ago, now you're saying this. And so watching that interview clip that you sent me was very instructive, because when they'd ask him a question, then if you noticed, he would pause. Unlike what we're doing right now, he would pause and think of his answer. Well, when the officer asked him, so after you picked her up, where did you take her? If you noticed on that interview clip, he pauses. The answer from anybody that was not lying would come out immediately, but it didn't from him because he had to think about it. It is, something that's kind of stereotype, bad cop, good cop. My interview technique and style was just to talk to them, to ask questions, but mainly to listen to what they say. You know, communications are a two-way street, but so that's, I think, the style they would have employed. In the interview clip you sent, I did not see that happening, although one of the two guys, dressed less formally, I should say, was a little harder on him than the other. But, you know, good cop, bad cop, I don't think that existed. And I don't think it needed to, because the guy was lying like crazy, and you could very easily figure that out just by watching him. Yeah, I've been asked that question a lot of times. You know, where would he most likely have put the body? And I mean, that's a question that's almost impossible to answer, but I say almost because based on the evidence I've seen now, and I'm sorry, but this is very gross to talk about, but the indications of blood and other evidence inside of his apartment, and his own statement that he decapitated Ying Ying, would tell me that he probably removed body parts and probably cut the victim into pieces. And again, I'm sorry to have to say that, but I think the fact is probably going to be true. Because if you think about it, if you kill somebody in your apartment, then what are you going to do? Are you going to throw them bleeding over your shoulder and haul them out down the stairs over to your car? Somebody's going to see you. But if you take body parts and you put them in black plastic garbage bags, who's going to notice that? You're taking the trash out, for example. And again, that's a terrible way to put it, but that's the way it would look to anybody. So my best guess is that's what he did. And he took the body parts in his trunk of his car and went to different locations and put them in dumpsters, perhaps. And then they were hauled away by trash companies. Nobody even noticed. So that's my best guess. And, you know, can he actually tell them where the body is, the victim's body is right now? I'm guessing the answer to that is no, because the body parts were probably spread around. It is part of the facts of life I dealt with, and part of the things that in the book that I have, FBI Diary Profiles of Evil, which is now published in China. Many of those things were part of our training to learn that kind of thing. And also, there are cases that I've written about in that book, which exactly the same thing happened. So it wouldn't be the first time, and it won't be the last time. You know, one of the things people don't know is are the things that I talk about in the book. One, what does an FBI agent do? Nobody really ever has written about it.
Yes, yes.
But the thing, or not much about it, but then the thing nobody has actually written about ever is what is the training? In other words, what did we learn as profilers that enabled us to look at behavioral clues like I've looked at in the Christensen case, and to make some deductions from that. So that training is about 1/3 of the book that I talk about in there, write about. And then finally, after the training, what do you do with the training? And so what I do is I chronicle a number of different cases that I worked on because my training qualified me. And there's a number of cases in that book that will explain, and people will understand better why and how something like the Ying Ying investigation how it proceeded and how they made the decisions they did. So.